Welcome to Simple Kicking with your host, James Harrison.
Okay, Nick Folk, you were legitimately in the living room of Simple Kicking.
Just hanging out,
Oh
having a good time.
I mean, does it feel like you're at home?
You know what? Back in Dallas, it feels like home anytime I can get back here. This past year, I was up in New England all by myself, living in a hotel. Wife and kids stay here. My kids are in school. We didn't want to bring them out. And kind of in the whole COVID fight, try to find a school, get them all ready to go. And they've got their good group of friends, their sports, their school's great. My in-laws are here. So they had like a good base. So we just kind of said, you guys stay there. I'll be the Lone Ranger. And so it was good to get back, in January and get back and see them and stuff. So it's been fun.
It's good to have you back, brother.
And it's good to be here.
All right, so let's go ahead and just get right into it. You go to Notre Dame High School, and that's in Sherman Oaks. It's a suburb of LA.
So long story short, I mean, I'm not very good at that, but I'll try.
Long story long.
Yeah. I went to a private Catholic K through 8. We had 33, 35 kids in my graduating class in 8th grade. Two people were both girls, were going to Notre Dame because their older siblings went there. A good buddy of mine who I grew up playing soccer with, he actually lives here in Dallas. He's played professional baseball. He coach for the Rangers now, Brett Hayes. He was going to Notre Dame, but he was going from a different school. And he was going to go play football. And a kid who was ahead of me went to Notre Dame the year before I did, and he just like, I'm just going to kick. Okay, cool. So I said, all right, I'll go kick. And I did it to like meet people. Like, you get there as a freshman, you don't know anyone. All right, this will be kind of like my learning experience. You go to Hell Week or whatever they call it, and you go meet some people before school starts. And they asked me, and I had grown in middle school. I was probably 6 foot by the time I was in high school, so I was already grown height-wise. They're like, all right, what position you want to play? I said, kicker. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, just kicker. And because soccer was like my thing. Like soccer is like what I wanted to do, and I still love soccer to this day. And they're like, okay. But we had a rich tradition at Notre Dame of kickers, starting with Chris Saylor, my kicking coach. He was there. I graduated in 94, All-American, went to UCLA, had a great career there, and then played a little bit of arena ball. And so at Notre Dame, just kicked my freshman year, played soccer, didn't think anything of it. I get a call from our head coach, Kevin Rooney. He said, hey, this was in between my freshman and sophomore year here. I want you to come train with a guy who went to school here, Chris Saylor. And so it was a going to be a senior, a going to be junior, the guy who went from St. Bernardine's to Notre Dame, and then myself. And Chris gave probably his very first lesson then to the three of us. He brought out, you know Chris.
Of course.
Every kick is a straight kick, right? He brought out a 100-foot rope and like pulled it all over the field. Like, see, it's a straight kick. It's a straight kick. So I remember that to this day. And we kicked. It was not really a competition. It was just kind of a learning experience. And then from then, the coach was like, all right, I want you to be on varsity. So I went through Hell Week as a sophomore on varsity. And my coach was a great coach. He's like, but we're going to give the starting nod to the senior first. And then if he kind of stumbles, we'll give it to the junior and then you, but you be ready. I'm like, okay. So I played the first game on varsity, and I just sat on the sideline. I'm like, man, I don't want to do this. I just want to play.
Yeah.
I had no aspiration of
Right.
kicking then at all. And so I said, hey, can I go play with my buddies on JV? Like, let me just play. He goes, yeah, sure. So played. We all got pulled up to varsity in the playoffs and had a good run. And it was probably, so that's 99. 1999 is when I met Chris. Probably the spring of 2000, Chris started doing small little camps. Just he boots on the ground, wrote letters to all the high schools, called the high schools, hey, Chris Saylor, I kicked Notre Dame. And then he started his business that way. And then we started just at Notre Dame. And it was, I have one of the original shirts still, like not the Chris Saylor kicking thing. It's just a little weird football thing. Cotton shirt, not the dry fit stuff. And it was fun. And then he helped me kind of progress as a kicker. I'd go to, camps regularly. And then my senior year, he helped me get my scholarship to Arizona. And then I had a decision to make. And, I went on my visit to Arizona and I looked at my mom. I had soccer scholarships as well. And I said, Mom, I'm playing football. And to this day, I can honestly tell you, I don't know why I chose it. I just kind of did. So that's kind of my high school story. like I said, not super short.
No, but it doesn't sound like college football was the dream. It doesn't sound like NFL football was the dream.
It wasn't at the time. I mean, soccer was what I did. I mean, you get a kid now who commits to a school as a football player in December or whatever, signs his letter of intent. I signed my letter of intent. I still played high school soccer, club soccer, until my national team duties or our national cup duties were done. And so I didn't want to leave my team kind of high and dry. We actually came out here at Dallas Cup. I had already committed to Arizona. We won Dallas Cup out here. So I still kept playing. I enjoyed soccer. I loved to play it. And today, if that were to happen, if a kicker or a linebacker, whoever, I'm going to go play basketball. The coach, but no. You signed your letter of intent. You're not doing anything. You're just going to train for football. And, they don't want you to get injured. But back then, I had no idea. And then I walk onto campus and kind of after my soccer career ended, I took kicking a little bit more seriously because I went from when I was in high school, they just had the big tees, the 2-inch field goal tee or the ground. So I was going from that to the ground, where now most kickers don't even use that anymore. They just use that little 1-inch tee and go straight to the ground. So that summer I had to work real hard to kind of get ready for training camp in Tucson. And I got there and it was a little kind of a shock to the system. Like, okay, football only. So I redshirted at Arizona. And then my redshirt freshman year, I kicked off. And then at the end of that season, kicked a couple field goals. And then I kicked my sophomore, junior, senior.
So Joe Robb was your special teams coach?
Joe Robb, yeah.
Well, that's what you and I both have in common.
Yeah.
I never got to play for him, but he did recruit me at LSU.
Okay.
And then bounced. So did you have fun kicking in high school? Did you have fun playing soccer, or was it more stressful? Like that whole experience of going from, because it doesn't sound like it was too stressful.
No, I had a great time. I kicked the game winner one game in high school, and it was just fun. Like, I didn't think anything of it. To this day, I can look back on it and I was just kind of excited to be out there, excited to be part of the team. And I tried to really do that with the guys starting in high school. And high school was a little bit different because I was going to soccer practice. So we would do all of our special teams at the beginning because Coach Rooney knew that only way that a lot of the good kickers were going to continue to kick for him were if they go play soccer, club soccer. So he would we called it early outs from 2:30 to 3. We would kick, punt, kick field goals, or kick off and kick field goals and punt. And then we would stretch as a team at 3 o'clock. We'll call that 3 to 3:10. And then 3:10 to 3:25 was special teams period. Right after stretch, whatever they were of the day, we would do that. And then I would leave. I would literally walk off the field, go get him, take a shower, we'll get in my car, go home, do homework, and then go to soccer practice from 6 to 8. And a lot of my classmates knew that I was doing that. They were like, all right, you're going to play soccer. So I would train with them. I would lift with them, run with them. I didn't get super into lifting until college because I didn't want to bulk up too much for soccer. But I had a great time. I had a great time playing soccer. It was just fun. And I think that's where a lot of young kids, they get stressed out. They forget that you're playing a game. Like, that's one thing Rex Ryan told me when I was playing for the Jets. He told not just me, but the whole team. Remember, guys, you're playing a child's game. Like, you are. That's what we're doing. We're playing a game. It's a kid's game. Yeah, it's really complicated, and you got to know a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a game. And you can tell, I would venture to say, most of the time, the teams that are prepared the best and the players that are prepared the best have the most fun because they know they're prepared and ready to go. Mm-hmm. The same thing for me. If I'm kicking and I'm doing the things I need to prepare, I can go out there on Sundays and have a good time. And if I'm smiling and having fun, I know I'm going to be kicking well. When I'm like, oh God, I didn't have a great week of preparation, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, then certain things just go in your mind and then you're not ready to go. So one of my kind of goals all the time is make sure we're having fun on the field, practice games, in the locker room, in the weight room, in the meeting room, have a good time, learn, and do the right things, but have fun doing it.
So this is Nick Folk. He's the current kicker at the New England Patriots. He played at the University of Arizona, has his jersey littered across the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Jets, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and like I said, most recently the New England Patriots. We're talking about fun. Do you work for the NFL? or do you play in the NFL?
That's a tricky question. I think a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the times, if players don't do the right things off the field, that hurts the NFL brand, and then that in turn hurts us as players. So you work for them a little bit, but then for the most part, you play in the NFL. Yeah, you are. It's a rough business. You're a commodity. As soon as you're not wanted, you're kicked to the curb and next man up. So I've been part of that a few times where it's just, hey, you're not performing at the level you need to perform at, whether that's for injury or whatever, and we're gonna go a different direction. So it's frustrating, but if you take a step out of your own shoes and you look at the big picture, they have teams to run, they have championships to win, and their job is on the line if they don't do that. So it's a little bit of both, I would say. I mean, they call it protecting the shield, and so you have to help do that, because if you do that, your bottom line goes up as well as the NFL's bottom line. So it's a little bit of both, but I'd say majority we play in the NFL, not necessarily work for it, but you got to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, and like you were talking about, do you still enjoy it even though? And let me preface this real quick. Nick, you were drafted in the 2007 NFL draft out of Arizona, 6th round pick by the Cowboys. You spend 3 years here in Dallas. You get a hip injury, and it didn't seem like you were really ready to come back. So, just like you said, whether it's performance or injury, next man up, they've got to run a business.
Yep. And so a little bit of backstory there is after my end of my second year, hip started bothering me. We thought, it was a hip flexor strain. So that beginning of that off season, I just took time off, and it got better to a degree. And then finally it stopped getting better. It just kind of stayed the same. And so I got my second opinion, but by the time I got my second opinion, the Cowboys had drafted David Buehler. So I'm thinking, okay, I got to go compete with this guy and try to, keep my job, even though I just had 2 really good years. So I had surgery May 5th, torn labrum, my right hip, surgery May 5th. And that was 12 weeks to the day that we started training camp. My goal was I'm going to be back. And at the time, if you pushed it, you could get back. There was nothing structurally wrong with your hip. You couldn't hurt your hip anymore. But I just wasn't strong enough to keep competing. I just couldn't do it. By the end of that year, kicking a 40-yard field goal felt like I had to bang it 60 yards. So I just couldn't. I didn't have the strength left in the leg to do it, because I didn't get it. I didn't kick from the end of the season, which we'll call it January 1, until probably a week or 2 before training camp. That's when I started kicking footballs. I was kicking soccer balls and volleyballs to try to get that up, but I didn't have kicking leg strength. And I could tell you, I kicked yesterday for the first time this offseason, and my leg's a little bit sore, right? So I'm kind of building back in, and I take my time to ramp that up over a course of time. And that offseason, I did it in 2 weeks. And I just was full go. And if I could go back and change it, I would have had surgery early. I would have got my second opinion earlier. And B, I would have, if I had surgery when I did, I would have said, hey, look, we got to take our time building up and, get ready for the start of the season, not get ready for day 1 of training camp. Training camp is 2 weeks, and you have 4 preseason games. So you're about 6 weeks out of the regular season. I should have ramped up slowly and probably played in the last 2 preseason games instead of trying to get ready and playing in the first one to compete against David. And so, I mean, it was a little bit of a circumstance thing, but, everything works out for a reason. And went up to New York and, had a good time there, and then kind of bounced around a little bit, but it's been fun.
So bouncing around a little bit is an easy way to say you went through some really crappy times. I mean, you went from being drafted, that's a high point.
Yep.
Coming to the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, that year was the first year of Cowboy Stadium, right? Or did you play 1 year at Texas Stadium?
I played 2 at Texas. So my third year was the first one. And I have the first points in that stadium in the new stadium, and I had the first points in MetLife.
That's incredible.
So it's pretty cool.
Wait, okay. I don't think that's going to go on an Instagram post. Okay. That's cool. So you have
Yeah.
the you have the first points at Jerry World, and you have the first points at MetLife.
Yeah.
Both those fields combined are $4 or $5 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, two of the best stadiums, in the 2010 decade.
Yeah.
Okay, but how did you go through that adversity, being unemployed?
So when I got released from Dallas, that was the first time I'd ever been released. So a little bit of a shock there. And then I kind of just put my head down. After, I took, well, take that back. After I got released, I went and had a workout with the Falcons. I think Matt Bryant at the time had injury, concussion, something like that. And so I had a workout with Steven Hauschka. He was, I forget where he was coming from. And I didn't kick well in the workout. And I was supposed to go from that workout directly to the Giants and have worked out with the Giants. And so kicked very poorly in Atlanta. I mean, it was really bad. And I called my agent and said, look, I cannot go to New York. I'm not going to put that foot forward. I mean, this was week 16, 17. So I said, let's just hold off. And I don't think the Giants were making a playoff run, or if they were going to stick with Tynes and kind of go that way. So I put my head down, started almost from scratch. I started working out at Exos up north in Frisco. Worked out there pretty hard. And then I was able to get on at SMU and kick at SMU. And I just kind of retooled everything. I calmed it down. I built up the strength the proper way instead of trying to get going super fast. And so for about, let's see, I signed with the Jets in the middle of February. So yeah, about 6 weeks, I pushed it pretty good, but at a good pace, my own pace. No one was pushing me. And when I was ready, I called my agent and said, hey, we're ready to go. And he goes, okay. So he scheduled back-to-back workouts with the Giants and the Jets. And the Jets were just coming off their first AFC Championship game when they played Indy. And I kicked pretty well at the Giants. And they were like, they knew I had to work out with the Jets because I would just fly to New York, go to one, drive to the next.
Yeah.
And they said, let us know how that goes and we'll be in touch. And I said, okay. Had a great workout with the Jets. Go do my physical and everything fine. And they didn't want me to leave. They were like, you're not going to leave until you sign this contract. And I said, let me talk about it with my family. And I'll get back to you. And this was probably on a Friday. Let me get back to you by Monday, And they said, okay. So I ended up signing with the Jets. And it was just hard work, just determination, put my head down, grinding, not worrying about the past. You can't change it. Just learn from it. Take the positive things that you can, learn from the negative things, and move on. And that was what I did then. In New York, I had a couple injuries. Didn't get released from them. I got put in IR one time with a pulled quad. But same thing. And that's just kind of been my mentality is, all right, you're going to get through this. You're going to grind. You're going to be all right. And then in Tampa, same deal. Had a knee injury there after 4 games. I wasn't kicking super hot anyway. And a lot of that was to go up and down my stairs was a pain with my knee. So I got that taken care of, put on IR. And from when I got put on IR until the end of that season, which was, I guess it was like, beginning of October. So for 2.5, 3 months, I went, did rehab on my knee. I lifted. I wasn't kicking. I took the time off to get this right. And then once I came back here after that season, I was able to start kicking and started building back up. And I had a rough go of it, but I knew I was going to be all right. So 2018, I sat out the whole year. We had all 4 of our kids, so we were here. We were just kind of getting settled here at St. Rita, finding schools for our kids and stuff like that. And I just started grinding. And at that time, I was actually getting my MBA through Indiana University. So I had a little bit of stuff to take my mind off things. So that was a goal of mine, was to do that. And we did that. The AAF came around in 2019. Right before then, I had a workout with Chicago. So I kind of got a little bit back on the workout circuit. I did nothing in 18. And my thought at that time, I was 11-year vet. So my thought was a team that is going to sign me is going to be a team making a playoff run wanting a veteran kicker. That was where my head was at. 2018, a lot of the changes that happened in 18 were young teams not necessarily in playoff mode. So I would love to have gotten to workouts. It just didn't happen. I worked out with Chicago after the whole Cody Parkey double doink. Feel bad for Cody. Great guy. I worked out with the group there, and then I went straight from there to the AAF. Played in that for the 8 weeks, and my goal was simply to showcase that I could kick and I was healthy. I think my first field goal there was in Phoenix. I was playing with the Arizona Hotshots, and first field goal was 53 yards. So I'm like, all right, I think I'm back a little bit. Nothing really came of that, and then New England called. Steve Goskowski was hurt his hip. He had the same injury that I did, but on his left hip. They signed Mike Nugent. My agent got on the phone with him and was like, hey, what about giving Nick a call, a chance? And then they had another workout. I went in there, worked out well, and they were a little bit surprised at how well I worked out. And I talked to them. They're like, we're not going to make a move now, but if we are, we'll give you a call. 2 weeks later, my agent gets a call from Jacksonville because what's his name? Josh Lambo was a little banged up, and they were going to London. So they're like, do you have a passport? I'm like, I got a passport. I'm ready to go. And so they're like, we're going to see how he is, but you may be flying directly to Jacksonville and getting up. And I'm like, all right, cool. And the Patriots found out about it, and then I got time with the Patriots. And I just said, hey, we're going to have a good time because you never know how much longer this is going to last. So enjoyed my time up there. And then they brought me back this year, and it's been a interesting ride, but I wouldn't change anything. I mean, it just makes you the person you are, and I've enjoyed every second of it.
What makes this ride with New England interesting? I mean, is it because you just relied on a process of just working hard and making it through adversity? I mean, what stands out to you about New England that's so interesting?
I mean, New England, you have like the lure of New England, like they're, people talking about the Patriot way, all that. So it was fun to get up there, fun to interact with the coaches, interact with the guys on the team who have been around, winning ways. And they have a program that works. Bill runs an awesome program. He has a huge emphasis on special teams. He was a special teams coordinator when he first got in the NFL. So he understands the importance of it. He understands that we can win or lose games or affect the way games are played within the special teams group, whatever that is, from field goals all the way to punt returns to everything. So it was fun to play for a coach like that and who took it seriously. And it wasn't, I've played for coaches who are, okay, we got a long field goal here in the first half or first quarter, go kick it. Well, his mentality is let's play defense. Let's not give them a short field right away. Let's play a little bit. So, it was just it's been interesting to learn. I've learned a lot up there, just being in those meetings and understanding the game of football. As a kicker, it's fun for me. I mean, I may not need to understand offense and defense, but I get to learn a little bit about it in case my kids ever want to play or something. So it's been fun to be up there and learn. And it's in my opinion, one of the top 3 toughest stadiums to kick in the NFL. They got that open end over there where it's just you never know what you're going to get there. So if you can kick well there, you can almost kick well just about anywhere. And I have a great operation with Joe Cardona and Jake Bailey there. They take their job super serious. So it's been fun to be around those guys and just kind of get the love of football back. So it's been a great time up there.
So I just pulled up your chart.
Oh, here we go. All right. I can tell you kind of where all these are. What games, too.
I mean, dude, you had 3.9 degrees of precision. So this season, that ranks in the top 10 in the NFL. And what that precision means is the angle of your kick clusters tightly down the center of the goalpost.
Yep.
You got better. And here's the thing. You had 2 misses to start early on in the season. You're 36 years old, and you get better as the year goes on in a tough stadium. What happened? What does this really show?
Number one, it was a unique year with COVID. We didn't have any preseason games. At the up in New England, we tried to do a mock preseason game so we could kind of get the feel for it, etc. there's nothing like being out there against other guys and competing against those guys. And then number 2, we had no fans. So a lot of times, if it's a screaming stadium, you just hear the white noise. It may be loud, but you can think and you're not distracted by anything. If you're golfing and it's super quiet and then you hear a bird, you hear that. Same thing in an empty stadium. You could hear the other team just talking trash, and you could hear guys on the sidelines talking trash because it's so quiet in there. So the first 2 kicks, you're the first one, I was kind of, wow, this is unique. This is strange. And you don't have any practice reps. You have nothing ready to go off of. So, and the second one was in Seattle, same scenario. And then after that, I just said, all right, Nick, you just got to calm down, smooth it out. And I calmed down. I got in a little rhythm there. And a lot of it goes to Jake and Joe, because they, like I said, they take their job seriously and their position seriously. And so Jake, especially being a young guy, he's like, look, whatever you need, I got you. So it's been good and a lot of fun to work with him. I'm a little unique in my holding patterns, I guess. I use a few different leans depending on the wind. So, and then I've helped him with some holding drills to make sure that we're already on the same page. So, but as the season went on, I just, a confidence thing. I had a little back thing flare up this year, which was unfortunate, but I was able to kick through that, and we kind of managed that well. And it was just a good year to end, good way to end the season, making a bunch in a row. So hopefully we can keep it going.
Well, that back thing, he's being humble, y'all. He kicked a game winner that day, and it was fun to watch that post game press conference. But yeah, the ball sounded. You could hear it through the TV. I know you said it's quiet there. Well,
oh yeah,
and it was, because you could really hear the thud of the ball, and that's what I noticed towards the end. The thud was really, really there.
Yeah, I was making good contact.
Yeah,
that's, I think, one of the biggest things if you're trying to get yourself out of a funk or anything, is just worry about making good contact and hitting a clean ball. And I was able to do that a lot. The back half of the year, back little bit of the year. So that was a big thing, especially in crummy weather. The crummy weather, if you're not hitting a good flighting ball, man, it's going to get eaten up, especially in New England, Buffalo, etc. So the clean ball, making sure that, for me, I'm doing all the little things right, and I'm not worrying about my swing or anything like that. I'm worrying about the little things. If I can do those right, I know my swing will be right on plane, right where I want it to be. So I was just able to kind of focus on those little things, and then, hit them where I wanted to hit them, which was a big thing. And a lot of times in New England, you're not aiming on the middle of the post. You got to pick a different target line. You got to pick sometimes an upright, depending where we're at, depending on the weather. And the one thing I've learned is I'll never give up an upright anymore. I kicked was it my first game in New England when I was with the Jets? Yeah, we played up there on a Monday night. They beat us 45-3. They killed us. We had a 53-yarder pregame going one way. There's a hard wind coming from the open end into, like, across the field, like corner to corner. And I picked the line pregame. I hit a 53-yarder, made it. All right, cool. It was a right hash kick. First quarter of the game, same thing. Same kick, same spot. I picked the same line, and I nutted it right through, and I missed. I'm like, I'm never giving up the uprights again. I'm never going to do it. So I just haven't. That's kind of one of my things that I want. There'll be times I probably need to. Like, we get really windy days in New England on the practice field, and there's nothing blocking it, and you have to. But I don't like doing it. It's one of my things. I'm just not a big giving up upright guy, but there are days you probably have to. So.
Well, this has been fun, man.
It's been great.
What a cool podcast, and I really appreciate you coming by. Your story strikes me. Again, this is Nick Folk. He's most recently played for the New England Patriots, and as we were talking, was 92.9% with 3.9 degrees of precision for all you kicking nerds out there. This dude, if you want to write him a letter, you can write him a letter, any zip code. It's just, here is the address, write down the goalpost. He'll get the letter because that's where his kicks are. But yeah, man, you faced adversity. time and time again, and you've relied on a process. You've relied on your coaches, and that's why you are considered a pro, and you're a 13-year NFL vet. I mean, there's guys that you came out with that are now not in the league.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people that go through what you go through, and they just say, look, I'm done. And you haven't. So that's why I think this was so much fun. And man, we're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
definitely do it again.
I mean, we're down here, we're in the almost the same zip code. And man,
Let's go out to your stomping grounds and bring these pro posts out and have some fun.
Hey,
I go kick at Jesuit all the time. That's where I go. So we can go do a fun one on the field out there.
I'm in. I'll chart you. I'll do whatever.
Let me get back in the swing of things first, and then we'll get it out. So
yeah. Well, that's Nick Folk, everybody. And if you haven't already, people can follow you on Instagram.
Yeah.
What's your
Nick
Instagram?
Folk too.
Okay.
Facebook, Twitter, same thing. I think I'm not an uber social media guy.
Yep.
I use it more for news that I kind of need to keep up with, but not a big poster. So I guess I'm more private in that way, but I'm on there. I'm on there somewhere. So
awesome. Well, that's Nick Folk, everybody. Thanks so much for joining, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Welcome to Simple Kicking with your host, James Hairston.